2015 Township of Lopatcong Planning Board meeting. At this time, I'd like to invite you to join us in a silent moment of prayer, followed immediately by the oath of allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'm required to state that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided indicating the time and place of the meeting in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 by advertising a notice in the Star Gazette and the Express Times and by posting a copy on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Beth, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, members Belcaro, Clymer, Jagan, Fishback, France, Corral,
Here.
Paul,
Here.
Liptak, Mayor McKay,
Here.
Vice Chairman Pryor,
Here.
Aaron Dempsey.
Here. Under old business, first thing, does everybody have received a copy of the minutes of the May 27th, 2015 meeting? Any additions, corrections, or comments on the minutes?
I do have comment.
Okay.
Beth, you have word search on that thing?
Oh, word search?
Yeah, have you ever used that? You just type in a word and it finds them all for you.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware of it.
I have a proposal. I was just counting the ums and I gave up.
Oh, okay.
Can we delete the ums?
Yeah, we can.
They don't add anything, and I think be quicker read. And then there's a couple places I just caught too where the wrong former word is shown on page 6.
Mm-hmm.
George Ritter, it says, I don't know where they're at. We have THEIR,
Okay.
and that should
Yep.
obviously be
Correct.
something else. And then for me,
Okay.
page 7, I have were any of the COA numbers you worked, blah, blah, blah. We have an apostrophe in there that doesn't belong there.
Okay.
And that's my comments.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none with those corrections, the minutes will stand as published. Okay, we move on to block 116, lots 26.01, 27, 27.02, and 28. It's a request from the Township Council to review the zoning history of those lots. Council, the last meeting, voted to have the planning board investigate the history of the zoning of those lots. I believe it's all highway business. So what I'd like to do this evening is authorize George to create a history of it. Is there any problem with that, George? Or
No, not at all. I can assemble a history of both the zoning files and just a history of the zoning of the tract.
okay. And once that's completed, we can get that back to the council and see what their wishes are going to be. Yes, sir.
I have a question for George. If we were applying positive and negative criteria to this, you would have to reconcile the use variance with the ordinance's omission of this zoning in the first place, correct?
I'm not sure. Okay, I guess I'm not sure if I thought when council was requesting a zoning history, what they were interested in was actually the history of the zoning, not so much trying to reconcile the.
I understand that, but then you have to do something with it. And if I kept going back to if this were a use variance, all right, you would, when looking at the negative criteria,
Well, if it was,
you would have to reconcile that.
sure, you'd have to reconcile a lot of things.
A lot of
at that
things,
point,
right.
that, if it was a formal request for a use variance. I didn't think that's what this was, but I mean, I didn't understand it to do that.
All right. I mean, if that's so, then the work product's simply going to be a history, and we're going to have to massage it a lot more. Okay. All right. But isn't council looking for a recommendation from us, or just the history?
No, just the history at this point.
Pardon me?
And a recommendation as to.
If you want a recommendation, we're going to have to do more than just look at the history.
The history,
Yeah.
we're going to have to go through request for zoning change, we can't institute the zoning
No,
change.
I understand that, but I don't see how I can make a recommendation.
Only way we'd be able to do that at this board level would be to reinvestigate the master plan and make a revision to it.
Well, how can you make a recommendation if you can't comment on the benefits and detriments of the proposal and how this reconciles with the master plan?
Well, I think that what we're sort of discussing two things here. We're discussing basically a zoning history as compared to an analysis of the appropriateness, or should we amend the master plan to accommodate the use variant. Well, it wasn't a use variance, but the request for a zoning change by Mr. Larkin's group. So there's two different things going on.
No, I recognize that, Jerry. I'm trying
I'm just trying to figure out which
define what we're doing, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to figure out what you're
If all the
looking for.
council requested was the history of the zoning, that's all the council's going to get without a recommendation.
If I do, true, if I do just the history, it would not be making a recommendation as to the merits of the request for a zoning change. That's correct.
I don't think they wanted, we want a recommendation. I think we wanted a history and whether or not what we can do, what we're allowed to do, how we can go about doing it.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if
we can provide
that's
that,
all you
okay,
ask
the method of
for,
going for it, it's just
that's what you're going to
it's
get.
going to be two different costs involved.
I mean-
in what we would want to do here. So this would be relatively inexpensive, where the full-blown investigation we would.
Well, there'd be considerably more to it. And also,
get a zoning change, and we would also, we could give you the recommendation going up with the zoning change, but any effect with that would have to be submitted to the Highlands first before we could even act on it.
well, we'd have to run it by them. That's
Yeah.
correct.
And we're in the midst of, the Highlands is in the midst of their own review of their master plan too. How would that, would they defer that before they would come back, or is there a time limit on it?
The answer is I haven't talked to them about that, about it, how they.
That's why I didn't want to get into. The other thing is, we would need an escrow account, basically, to draw from that in order for the professionals to bill for the work they'd have to put into it. We would need a full plat, site plan.
Well, even
Taking-
George's work, I think the intent was to ask for escrow. Wasn't it discussed with her?
Yes. Intent is to ask for escrow, yes. I would agree with Joe that just having a zoning history study really isn't enough. I think that's what Joe was saying, questioning really the value of just doing that. Am I correct?
Yeah, but if that's all council asks for, we can accommodate them. But if they're really looking for the recommendation of this board, I personally would need more to support such a recommendation.
What the mayor said, it's kind of like not so much a recommendation, but options. You know.
Yeah.
Here's what you can do, you know, with it.
I think I won't call them an applicant at this point, but their presentation gave us quite a bit of information on what we were looking at, so take it from there. I'm looking basically, providing council what they requested, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think part of what council was requesting is what was the vision of the planning board when the zoning went this way? What did you want to put there?
Well, it's the history, so we're going to go there.
And then, if that can't happen, is this a viable alternative?
That's what we will provide you with them.
Thank you.
So is there, do we need a motion on that to authorize George to do that?
Yes, I
Okay.
think we should make it clear.
Okay.
It should be subject to applicant posting funds.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion on that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll entertain a second. Roll
Second
call.
one. Members Clymer,
Yes.
Grau,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mayor McKay,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Breyer,
Yes.
and then Chairman Bender.
Yes. That's it. Move on to public comment, or is there anything you would like to?
No public comment. We just really came to observe tonight. We made our presentation to you last time around.
Mhm.
Gave you some options and things to think about. We appreciate that the council took it up, brought it back to you guys. We understand it's a process. Anything we can do to help, other than escrow, which we understand we have to do,
Okay.
but anything we can do in terms of documentation plans, our planner has a relationship with your planner.
You can understand that, we would entertain the full site plan application coming in, and I'm sure you don't want to get into that expense unless you are fairly confident and you can proceed with the project. So
Absolutely.
we'll see how we work it out this way.
Sounds good.
My only hitch would be, I don't know where the Highlands Council, which we're subject to, is within their revision of their master plan and how the overlay, because we've already agreed to the overlay of their master plan for the township. So, and how long the review process would be. I'm not sure that we have any time limits on what their review is it?
What, for this?
Yeah.
No, I'll do this timely, but there is no official limit or time to do this. In the sense of, under the municipal land use law, no. There's
I don't
no,
want to get a lot of money spent and everybody tied up, and then Highlands look at it and say, well, you can't do this. So, I don't know if they would. But
well, I'll discuss the administrative side with them in terms of how they want to be involved, if they want to be, I'll do that right away. Find out where their head is.
good, that will give us a little more information to work on that. Okay. Call for public comment, but I don't see any public. So. Other than that, I'll.
Well, I don't know. So that's a.
Oh.
Little things in life.
It's always interesting when they introduce other levels of bureaucracy. So.
I know, I don't even know.
Well,
50 more.
And I got 50 more to go. You got it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comment from the board?
I have one question. It has to do with Clymer Village. There's George on this. We only claim 40 co-units over there.
That's correct.
There's 82 units.
That's right.
Okay. They keep calling me because they want to refinance the deal.
Okay.
They're going to go for a totally new thing, which is a 40-year. That's what they're going to ask for a 40-year deal. It's a pilot program. They pay us a percentage of gross rents, right? For taxes. George told me that some other townships were initially in some way involved in this.
Yes. Harmony Township, right?
There was two of
Two
them.
of them? Okay.
Oh,
In what way were they?
I'm sorry.
In what way were they involved?
Well, this gets it back even before my time in terms of how they got involved. But it's our understanding from the stuff we have that's on COA that they entered into an intermunicipal agreement to fund or help them build that facility. In exchange for that, they each, Lopat and each of the other two towns, got a certain number of unit credits for what they put in it.
When I asked the entity that runs this thing, that church, National Church, whatever they call it,
Yeah,
that's for
they
sure.
don't know anything about that.
okay.
So I'm wondering, they're going to look it up. I said, look, if you want to redo this deal, first of all, we got to know what town. If you said there's other towns involved, they're going to have to be involved in redoing it. And I don't even know what towns they are for sure. And they don't know what they are because they don't know many towns besides ours being involved.
Okay, well, I have the two towns that are involved.
Yeah, you just gave me the names. I think you gave me the
Yeah.
names before, but I have no substantiation of that. There's no documents.
Oh, I know. Well, I saw your email today, and I don't recall and we're looking now, but I don't recall that we have any actual we don't have a copy of the agreement. I don't believe we do.
I have the agreement. But they said-
Between the towns, though.
Oh, not the towns, no.
That's what I mean, that split these units up and how
But the HUD agreement is silent as to anything but Lopatcong. Deal with
the,
HUD. And HUD financing.
I'll see if we have anything in the file, if I can give you any more than we have.
Yeah.
I have documentation that, at least from the standpoint of COA, the units were split between 3 towns, and Lopat's share was 40, and that's what's always been counted on the COA sheets. I don't think we're looking through the file now, but I don't think we have any agreement, the official agreement between the towns. I don't think I have that.
One. That's why I only went back a year.
No, I only gave you what I had,
Yeah.
although I don't know if there's something down at the pump stations. They must have had to come before the board here, or the zoning board of adjustments for their building, right?
I don't have.
No,
That
I
was
don't think
before
it's
you-
the towns. We've
Yeah,
always
I
had-
don't- when was it
always
built?
had on their sheet.
Already
25
had-
years ago.
For
Like 5 years ago.
Lopat's share. We do have a document
Oh,
that
that
talks
was
about
a
the
long
other 2
time ago.
towns.
Cole was in the first round when that was first
Yeah.
being going on, and we were assigned a number at that point on the first round of COA when it first came out, the Mount Laurel decision they called it in those days. And there were all kinds of things going around. I mean, I wasn't involved.
Well,
The planning board at that point probably wasn't even involved in COA. That was more at the council level at that time.
this is I think my point. If we are the only town of record, then we should take all the credits. And if we're not, and they're redoing the deal, I think we can, if we redo the deal with them and we give them an extension on the pilot program, and we have to go to the state, I guess, to do that first, maybe we get all the units and the other parties don't get it anymore. Because they're talking about making renovations to the buildings and such, so that they could.
Adding units, or
They didn't say that, just,
because at one time they were before the board, the current board, and we were talking about adding another building there behind the existing building at one time.
that wouldn't be unbeneficial, right? If we could pick up all those units, we'd meet our COLA obligation.
One thing we should probably do is get a copy of Harmony's housing element and perhaps.
Yeah, we can-
add-ons and see if they are taking credit for units on this.
But are they correctly taking the credit?
Agreement with municipalities.
It could have been something they discussed in principle and never really went through.
Yeah, I would say that.
Because it's not in the HUD agreement.
One of the parties should have a copy of the agreement. If there are no
Yeah,
copies.
That's surprising.
If it's not in the HUD agreement, how are they getting credit?
Because it's total.
It would be COLA, but you think that if they were involved as equity partners in the deal, they'd be reflected in the agreement with HUD, and they're not there. It's just a fact.
If the deal gets
Unless there was a subsequent thing. Huh?
and we take all the credit,
Yeah.
it's up to the other 2 towns to file suit against us and prove that there was an agreement in place. If no agreement can be produced, it's a moot point.
Well,
No, we want to.
I mean, we can do due diligence to see if we can find one, but if nobody can produce it, we move ahead and claim all the units and let the chips fall where they may at that point.
Who's the
What-
attorney back then?
Will they,
They would probably have the records.
all the units at
Take
any
one
one
guess.
time available, or did we get half credit for the?
well, we got a little more, we got 40 of the 83, and the remainder was split between the other 2.
But we'd rather have 82.
Well, I don't disagree, man. I'll see what we have in the file on it, and I'll check Harmony and I'll check the other town to see if they claim it. It was clearly part of the housing elements, though, that were submitted then, not split.
Right, all right,
Around
then maybe
one.
if they don't survive a revamp of the deal.
Well, most of these, the 25 years is what the restriction normally runs on these things. In other words, they're good for 25 years.
You're past that now, so then they're out.
Well, they might be. I'm just,
All right, so this is where I want to go. So I'm seeking guidance.
I don't know.
If we can pick up 40 units, that's huge.
Oh, that would be huge. There's no doubt about that. And we'll see what we have. See what we have in the file. But I don't think we have any formal agreement. I don't recall ever seeing the actual agreement between the towns. I mean, just as an example, in Chester Township, we have an agreement with the Borough of Chester that did exactly the same thing, split units. I've never seen that agreement either. Other than the paperwork that I submitted to COA to get it approved, I've never seen the actual.
But if you think it's 25 years, we've moved into that zone.
Well, that's
just
what
passed it. So, yeah, I mean,
that's what the deed restriction runs on housing.
Mhm.
Like if Toll Brothers built you an affordable house, there's a 25-year restriction put on that it has to be available for COA certified units. At the end of that time, if you want to keep it in force, you may have to buy the unit back, the town, to get it. I don't know if that
price or at
applies.
the market price.
Well, I mean, that's just saying that you can re-up these units, but I mean, the bottom line, I don't know how it applies to this type of an agreement. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're going to need a good attorney that knows this stuff.
Could this agreement have been incorporated in the deed when it was filed? Is there a possibility of that?
So,
Possibility, yeah, that's a good point.
don't know.
I'll get the deed.
The agreement could have been recorded in the county clerk. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Outside chance, but, we're grasping at straws to try to find who agreed to this and what the terms were.
Well,
Yeah, because I have nothing.
the applicant would have the deed. So,
That's the national
I'd have
church
to-
registration.
Huh?
That's national churches owns that, right?
yeah.
They're out from, I think, is it Ohio?
Ohio. No, I just haven't talked to them. They only know about Lopatcong. They don't know what the towns are involved. You see it as an opportunity. Plus, we can revamp it and get a better piece. Maybe get 20%, maybe 25%. Yeah, I'll talk about that. I guess that's
I was-
council, right?
I would like to see what our number is going to be, if somebody can tell us what it's going to be. So we know where we're heading. I mean, I've heard anything from 356 or something like that.
Yeah, well,
Down
I
to
think based
what
on
we
the
have and we're
based on the
in excess
numbers
now,
that we think.
but who
are-
knows what's going to happen with the way the courts are.
No, I agree. But I think that Dr. Burchell, in generating his numbers in my conversation with him, is that he believes that the updating the numbers, and he's going to update them, are not going to be significantly higher than the numbers we used. There might be a couple units, but he believes that they're not going to be significantly higher, and he indicated that they're going to adjust for whether a community is in the Highlands or not in the Highlands, or da-da-da-da-da. So I'm not expecting a big surprise. I mean, I'm not saying the number might not go up a couple of units, but at least based on our numbers that we crunched here for this last go-round, we're sitting there with 60-plus units in excess right now. And I don't get the impression, talking to Mr. Burchell, that all of a sudden the number's going to be 300. You know what I'm saying? I think we're going to be okay, but until he gives us the numbers, I won't know for sure.
A little bit concerned about the way they're shaping up and threatening to go back to the builder's remedy if they can't come to an agreement this round with COA.
Oh, I think the courts are going to end up having to pick a methodology. And I think there probably is going to be a running battle between Burchell, what he does, and what the affordable housing people have come up with. There could very well be a running battle on that, but I think the courts in the end are going to have to pick a consistent model, because they can't have every town generate their own number.
I agree with you, but once they start threatening coming back to court in the first rounds, really killed everybody with the builder's remedy.
Well, yeah, well, they could.
I mean, and that seems what they fall back on as the threat.
Oh, yeah, well, but yeah, I agree. That'll always be the threat that's there, that if you don't get the number, we'll come after you with a builder's remedy. But if we get in and file with the courts, the towns that have already submitted to COA and have things on file, if they get their stuff in and file, they will be protected during that process. That's all that I can say. Whether that process takes 6 months, 5 months, or as the last
Or
one
the
did,
proverbial
6 years,
12 years.
12 years between the two. I don't know. But at least once you're in there, wherever the argument runs, you will have protection while you're sitting there. The only way you'd lose that protection, at least in my reading of it, is if the courts think that the town is not making a reasonable effort to try to do it.
Mhm.
And so, it's, so I think the most important thing is to get in and get filed with the court. And then all of us are going to go on a lesson of what's going to, we don't know.
That's on the council's agenda.
Did we meet our deadline in submitting what we had to submit that we talked about?
Well, we haven't met, the deadline hasn't come up yet, and the answer is nothing's been submitted yet to my knowledge. We forwarded our material on to the town attorney for their use, and we're waiting to hear if they need it.
No, we had that.
It's between June 8th and July 8th.
So the clock.
The clock's running. The clock's running on it, but we're not behind yet.
So it would behoove us to get it in before the deadline to at least give us an extra edge of protection, whether or not it's.
Well, yeah, because if you don't get it in, you have none. I mean, that's the best way to look at it. If it isn't submitted and in, then you're sitting out here waiting to see what happens. Meaning, will somebody sue me with a builder's remedy? So yes, I think the most prudent thing is to get something into the court system, and then none of us will know where it's going to go for sure, but at least we'll be in.
All right. Any other business? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? We're done.
Good meeting, Chairman.
Very